ठीक sir? ठीक sir, you can hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sachin, ठीक sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Start गरौँ है अब फेरि गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि. So today we are going to discuss about a very important topic, that is normal labor. And today we'll discuss about physiology and stages of normal labor. Those who are posted in gynae, they have already seen this scenario, isn't it? You have seen lots of deliveries, at least one delivery, cesarean section or normal delivery. So taking out the baby is a very wonderful experience for us and for the mother and family. So how it happens actually, today we'll discuss about this. So the objectives are to define, first of all, we have to define what is normal labor and what is normal delivery, because these two are different. And stages of normal labor, phases of normal labor, and also describe the physiology of all stages of labor. Right? So about the definitions, delivery is the passage of the fetus and placenta from uterus to the outside world. So when the fetus and placenta is delivered from the uterus to the outside world, that is called delivery. So it can occur through various routes, like it can be vaginal delivery, it can be a cesarean section delivery. So to define as delivery, it should be after the age of viability, after the gestational age of viability, that is defined by WHO as 22 weeks. Okay, but in the bottom you can see one line: the gestational age at viability is the gestational age at which the fetus is able to survive independently. Although WHO has said it is 22 weeks, in Nepal, because of the Nepalese law, it is 28 weeks. And also in some countries, it is different. In some countries, it is 20 weeks. In some countries, it is 24 weeks also. But in Nepal, we take it as 28 weeks. So what is labor? It is a series of events that take place before delivery. Okay, so it occurs in the genital tract for expulsion of viable fetus during its journey from the birth canal, that is uterus, cervix, and vagina, to the outside world. So there is slight difference. Delivery is just an event, whereas labor is the series of events that take place before delivery. Okay, and both of this, for both of this, the fetus has to be viable. That means it has to cross 22, or in our case, it is 28 weeks. So what are the features of labor? For labor or delivery, what are the things that should happen? Okay. So for labor to occur, there must be perceived rhythmic uterine contractions. So there should be uterine contraction for the fetus to deliver. Okay, that is intermittent uterine contraction. It is not continuous contraction. Another thing is there should be progressive cervical dilatation and effacement. So the cervix is the mouth of the uterus, so it has to open and it has to get shortened for delivery. And there must be descent of the fetal presenting part, which is usually the head, fetal head. So fetal head has to come down through the birth passage. And there must be eventual expulsion of the fetus, placenta, and membrane. So you can imagine the fetus and placenta as the content of the uterus, which is like a container. So to empty the container, the mouth of the container should be open, and the container should squeeze the contents to outside, and eventually there is expulsion of the fetus, placenta, and membrane. So that is how the fetus is expelled out from the uterus. Okay. Now we go through some criteria for normal delivery. When do we say that somebody has had normal delivery? Because there is, in the absence of these criteria, the delivery is said to be abnormal. Okay. There are 6 criteria for normal delivery. when all these criteria are fulfilled, delivery is said to be normal. Then we say that this patient had normal delivery, or this woman had delivered normally. Okay? To say that the delivery is normal, it should have completed 37 weeks of gestation. Okay? It should not be before that. And there must be only one fetus, singleton fetus. There should not be multiple fetus. And it should occur by vertex presentation. So it should not be breech, or it should not be other presentation of head. And it should occur by vaginal route. So all other deliveries than vaginal route are abnormal. And it should occur without assistance of instruments like vacuum or forceps. And it should occur without complication. That means there should not be any postpartum hemorrhage or retained placenta like complications. Okay? So all these criteria need to be fulfilled for normal delivery. If even one of them is not fulfilled, then delivery is abnormal. Okay? So again, there is criteria for normal delivery. There is slight difference between the criteria for normal labor and delivery, because normal labor is a series of events and delivery is only one event in labor. So to say that it is a normal labor, it should be spontaneous onset. It should be spontaneous onset. It should have completed, again, 37 completed weeks. It should be vertex presentation, no undue prolongation, and it should occur without minimal aids, and there should be no complications. So only difference between criteria for normal delivery and normal labor are, in case of normal labor, we add spontaneous onset and no undue prolongation, because it is a series of events. Okay. There are some related definitions which we should be familiar with. Okay. When the labor occurs before 37 completed weeks of gestation, but after the age of viability, that is known as preterm labor. So in our case, because the age of viability is 28 weeks, any labor occurring before 37 completed weeks and after 28 weeks, that is preterm labor. Prolonged labor is total duration of first and second stage of labor more than 18 hours. We'll discuss later what is first and second stage of labor. Okay. Similarly, when the labor occurs very fast, okay, from the onset of labor, if the delivery occurs very fast, okay, that is less than 2 hours, that is known as precipitate labor. So first and second stage of labor is completed within a very short time. Another term is false labor. When there is painful uterine contraction which is not associated with cervical dilatation, it is spurious labor and it is relieved by rest. Okay. Parturition is the whole process of the childbirth from conception to preperium. Okay, from the conception of pregnancy up to the end of preperium. That whole part is known as parturition. So parturition consists of the whole duration of pregnancy, labor, delivery, and preperium. Okay, that is a very broad term. Okay. Now we discuss something about parturition, phases of parturition. Okay, phase 0 is uterine quiescence. That means uterine silence. Okay, when the uterus is not active, that is the time throughout pregnancy when the uterus is relaxed and cervix is closed. So when there is phase 0, there cannot be onset of labor and delivery. Okay, so phase 1 is activation of uterus. That means uterus now prepares for labor, and there are some changes in the uterus during the last 6 to 8 weeks of pregnancy before the onset of labor. That is known as phase 1 of parturition. Phase 2 is stimulation part or stimulation phase. This includes whole stages and processes of labor from onset of labor to delivery. So it includes our first, second, and third stage of labor. Phase 3 is involution, that occurs after the delivery. Okay, so this is the recovery phase. Until 6 weeks after delivery, we say that there is preperium. So from phase 0 to activation, stimulation, and involution, that is the whole phases of parturition. Okay. Now we need to know how the labor occurs. Okay, what are the changes in the uterus, cervix, and the hormones for the onset of labor. The exact mechanism for initiation of labor is still unknown, but we can guess that the factors which inhibit uterine contractions and maintain a closed cervix should diminish. These factors should diminish at the onset of labor because uterus has to contract and cervix has to open. And factors which have opposite actions will increase at the onset of labor. That means factors which promote uterine contraction, factors which open the cervix, that should increase at the onset of labor. Okay. How there is transition from quiescent period, like silent period, to active period. Okay. How the quiet pregnancy period goes into labor phase. Okay. There are mainly hormonal factors which make the woman go into labor. There are changes in myometrium. These hormonal factors will act on the myometrium and cervix to undergo the onset of labor. So there are changes in myometrium also. We'll discuss in short what are these changes. We'll also discuss the changes in the cervix, how it prepares for labor and then it starts opening and dilating. Okay, and there is integration of these control pathways. So what are the hormonal factors responsible for labor? Okay, these are the same hormones which are present during pregnancy, like progesterone, estrogen, oxytocin, and prostaglandin. Okay, so these hormones have different actions. Some of these hormones are responsible for passiveness of the uterus and cervix. Some of these hormones have actions which starts contraction of uterus and dilatation of the cervix. So progesterone is one hormone which maintains uterine quiescence, okay, uterine passiveness by inhibiting prostaglandins and preventing oxytocin release. So progesterone is the hormone which maintains pregnancy. Okay, estrogen has opposite action. Prior to labor, there is a reduction in progesterone receptors and increase in estrogen concentration. Okay. And there is oxytocin release from posterior pituitary increase. So everybody knows that oxytocin is responsible for contraction of the uterus and dilatation of the cervix. Similarly, prostaglandin, it is also responsible for uterine contraction and cervical dilatation. So prostaglandin is synthesized from chorion and decidua, and at the onset of labor, this prostaglandin will increase, and also calcium influx into myometrial cells will increase. So at the onset of labor, whole things are for uterine contraction and cervical dilatation so that baby can be delivered. Okay. And hormonal, continuing on hormonal factors, there is maternal corticotrophin releasing hormone, which increases and potentiates the action of prostaglandin and oxytocin. So synergistically, it will also cause uterine contraction. Another is fetus also starts secreting cortisol because fetus is also fully grown and it also secretes cortisol, which favors conversion of progesterone to estrogen. So we already knew that progesterone is the hormone which will maintain the passiveness of the uterus, and estrogen will favor activeness. Okay, so fetus also takes part in its own delivery. Okay? And there's another reflex known as fetal ejection reflex or Ferguson reflex. It is a neuroendocrine reflex. Pressure from the fetal presenting part over the cervix is relayed via reflex arc through spinal cord and to brain. That will increase the release of oxytocin. So the more the fetus will go down to the cervix, it will cause more release of oxytocin. So what are the changes in myometrium at the onset of labor? So the change in myometrium, myometrial contractility from this, the contractility pattern changes from irregular to regular contraction, which is high intensity and high frequency. So the more the labor progresses, the contraction becomes more intense and more frequent. So the woman who is in labor will complain that the pain is increasing in intensity and it is coming more frequently, but still it is intermittent. And there is also increase in intracellular calcium ion, which results in formation of contractile entity of actin phosphorylated myosin. So this is the physiology of uterine myometrium. And prostaglandins and oxytocin also increase intracellular calcium ion of the myometrium. Okay. Other changes in myometrium are there is progressive shortening of the smooth muscle cells of uterus in the upper segment. So now the uterus is divided into active upper segment and passive lower segment. Okay. So retraction is the progressive shortening of uterine muscle fibers, and there is